This video will show you how to use the Jamf Teacher app to control your students' iPads remotely. When launching the app, you will see your classes. You will see a small gear in the upper right corner. If you tap on that, you can see information about the device and a link to the Jamf support help documentation that you can refer to help you answer any questions you may have using the app. Let's talk about creating lessons in Jamf Teacher. Think of lessons as a way to supplement your lesson plans by putting temporary restrictions on your students' devices so that they can focus on the content you are teaching. For instance, maybe you want to lock your students to a couple of apps for your lesson and navigate to a couple of web links in Safari that you reference in the lesson. To create a lesson, from the home page of the Jamf Teacher app, tap Lessons, then tap Create Lesson. First, we will need to name it and give it a description. To build the experience, you can tap Edit under Allowed Apps. We can choose which apps the students can use during the lesson. The blue check mark indicates that it is allowed. Don't forget to add the Zoom app to the allowed apps if you want to restrict the iPads of students that are remote. Next, in the Lesson Links section, we can add links, where we can add websites the students are allowed to go to during the lesson. Tap Add Link and give it a title. Then paste the URL link into the URL field. Then tap Add Link. Now that we've added a link, we get two extra options. If we toggle on Lock in these websites, then students will be able to navigate to the websites we've specified. If we enable Lock in Safari, that will force Safari to open on the iPad and the students won't be able to use any other apps. So if you want students to use other apps, leave this setting turned off. You can also enable or disable apps by genre. Most of these restrictions are already set in the district profile, and those restrictions can't be overridden. You can also set restrictions on the iPad's functionality, like whether or not the camera is allowed or screenshots and screen recordings are allowed. Once you're done, you can tap Save in the top right. Now you have a lesson you can use alongside your lesson plan. Lessons can be started in two ways. Make sure to warn students to save work and to close apps before you start a lesson to prevent possible loss of work. Right from the lesson tile, you can tap the lesson you want to start. Here you'll need to choose the length of time you want the restrictions to last. You can always end the lesson early, but this will end the lesson in case you forget so that restrictions won't last past their needed time. Then select the class you want to apply the lesson to and tap Start on the top right. It will display a screen showing you the status of each device. Here's what the student sees after you start the lesson. Here's a student that has various apps downloaded on their iPad. Once the restrictions take place, anything that was not allowed by the teacher disappears off the iPad. When the student navigates to a website, notice how Neo is permitted. Please note, students must log into Neo with their Google accounts first before you start the lesson. Otherwise, they will not be able to access it. When the student tries to navigate to a different website other than Neo, like YouTube, the student gets an error message and is denied access. Another thing to note is that if you have links to websites in Neo, students will not be able to go to those links unless you allow them under lesson links. Once the teacher clears the restrictions, notice how all of the students' original apps are restored and they now have full access to their iPad again. The second way to start a lesson is from within the class itself. From the home page of the Jamf Teacher app, tap the Classes tab. Under Manage Classes, you will see your classes that were imported from Aries. Tap the class you want to start. At the top, you'll see a list of actions that can be applied to the devices in the class. Below is a list of student groups, and below that, you'll see a list of students that is in the group that is selected. Right now, all is selected so you see all of the students in the class. You can press the plus button to create smaller groups within the class. When you use the actions at the top of the list, they will apply to whatever group you have selected here. To remove a group, press and hold on the group name and select Remove. Once you choose the group you want, from here you can start a lesson that you created earlier. Or if you haven't created a lesson, you can use restrictions, app lock, and web lock to create the same experience you would have created in a lesson. If you pushed out any of these restrictions or any lessons that you want to end before their time limit, simply tap Clear Restrictions on the Actions tab to turn the students' iPads back to normal. Every single one of these actions can be done for an individual student by simply tapping on the student and then selecting the actions you want to apply, including the ability to reset the passcode on their device in case they get locked out. And that's Jamf Teacher in a nutshell, a new way to control your students' iPads remotely. If you have any questions, please contact the tech integrator or tech coach at your site.